We're from AlphaOmega London, maker of shoes, creator of waves in the fashion industry. We started this podcast series to tackle head-on the current issues that matter in society and to get honest views from the mouths that matter. In this series of sustainability of fashion, we'll be exploring fashion's precarious relationship with sustainability and its attempts to address growing concerns surrounding its non-conservational approaches to society and environment. Thank you all for tuning in to the first episode in our sustainability series. Joining us today we have
Nazina,
Kate,
Samia, Apranji,
and myself, Ashwini. For those of you unaware of the issue of sustainability and fashion, here are some sobering facts. There are tens of millions of people in slavery today in the fashion industry, of which nearly 1 in 3 is a child. It takes an average of 7,000 liters of water to produce 1 pair of jeans. That's how much you would drink in 5 to 6 years. 20% of clothing is never worn, not even once. The facts and figures just keep getting worse and more shocking and horrible. What do you guys have to say about this?
Gosh, I wasn't expecting that question. Well, appalled, absolutely appalled. It's having that information. It's being made privy to that information, which is key, and it's just not readily available. But when you do hear those sobering facts, it kind of makes you think, well, you know, how much of that am I contributing towards? Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, just very, very distasteful. Once people understand the full extent of sustainability, what it actually means, then they're pretty much in a position where they can make very conscious decisions in how much they contribute towards those startling facts that you've just mentioned.
So what would you say sustainability means to each of you? What do you understand by sustainability?
Wow. I don't know, you guys, what do you think? What do you think?
I think it means just caring and thinking through designing, thinking mindfully about the whole process of the garment or the product.
Following on from that, it's sort of ensuring that, I guess, as you just mentioned, from, you know, looking at the product life cycle of any garment, of any accessory, of any shoe, that it has very little environmental impact or negative environmental impact. Just sort of creating this sort of sense of social responsibility, I guess.
Because these facts, I mean, we look at it as a third person, but really, like, we're responsible for this. It doesn't hit us, but really, these are the figures we're putting out there. Like, we're the reason for this. So it's bigger than just...
Gosh, that's quite strong, Ashwini. I feel really, really responsible now. In fact, I woke up this morning and at every single, sort of process of me getting ready, I was thinking, is that sustainable? No, it's not. Is that sustainable? No, it's not. Literally, the very fabric of our existence is sort of hinged on unsustainable practices and measures, and it's up to us to sort of try to change that in any way, shape or form we can. But in order to do that, as I was saying before, we need the information.
But it's like when all of these products have started to come out in after Industrial Revolution or whatever, it's kind of made us reliable in that kind of lifestyle. And at the time, no one, I don't know if people knew about sustainability then. They just wanted to go, oh, these things look great, and they do this, like the functions just so, that was the main
to improve society and to make us all feel better about ourselves and make things easier. But everything has now come at a cost. And if we continue, we're basically not furnishing or not providing a good enough future for, you know, our children or even for ourselves, you know, in 50, 60, 80 years time. How long can people live? No, okay. Well, let's just say life expectancy was, I don't know, 120. But yeah, I mean, we still need to care. If we're not going to be around, we still need to provide.
Well, not even really just the future, to be honest. Like, we keep saying the future, but it's already affecting us. Like, the air is so toxic. Like, the amount of cancer and all of these things have increased so much, and we might not directly relate it to this, but it is related. And just everything, it does affect us in so many small ways that we don't really notice. But I mean, hypothetically, if we didn't have these issues, we'd probably be living a much better life. And we don't really know that, obviously. But
yeah, so now's the time really to act. Now really is the time to act. But actually, going back to the questions of the episode, how big do we feel this issue of sustainability is in the fashion world? Is it something that, you know, we feel, you know, that there's a lot of noise that's currently been made about it?
Is it not trending?
Definitely.
Like,
but is it just trendy because it's trendy, or do people actually care? I mean,
I hope it does. But like places like H&M and like the popular brands, are like giving out flyers on like the circular economy and making sure that all of the clothes go back somewhere, and rather than just the landfill. And it's getting popular.
It's true, and it sounds like it's getting popular, like wow, this is the next trend, when in actual fact the industry is by far one of the most pollutant industries that are contributing towards the negative effects of global warming, of climate change. So there really is an incentive for the industry to stand up and take note. It does kind of, to the consumer, feel as though, yes, it's a little bit of a trend, but, you know, at this point in time, this industry really needs to be one of out of all the industries to really sort of make amends and start making real changes, you know, to processes and manufacturing and all sorts, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the most polluting industries in the world. I think the second most polluting.
Yes, according to Kate's article. Kate, you're sitting over there very, very content with yourself with that article, which was fantastic. But, you know, you do sort of mention that actually as consumers, there's a little bit of confusion, you know, in terms of like what we mean with all these buzzwords like eco-friendly, eco-fashion. And I think you know, there might be a risk of us sort of going through this sort of sustainable fatigue almost, because we're bombarded with so much. But you've quite rightly stated that, you know, fashion is really, you know, it's one of the big offenders.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the biggest offenders, and I think it's also one of the ones that seems to have been least reactive to sorting out its problems. Like when you think, I mean, this is an industry that has to react all the time to any sort of social movement, any kind of, to pick up on that.
It's very quick to react as well.
Yeah, and really I suppose it's been reasonably quick to react to the trend of sustainability, but actually, I suppose, meaningful difference when it comes to like investing money into this. Like you say, it is popular, it's trending, which is great in terms of like consumer awareness. But if you've got nothing underneath that to back up, everyone is going to get a little bit jaded about it.
But also, in one sense, when you look at it, like, it kind of has to start somewhere, at least by making it a trend. They're creating awareness. At least it's getting somewhere, possibly, and years down the line might get somewhere. Because us, for instance, as consumers, we're aware of the issue because these companies are highlighting and everything. And even if their measures are not necessarily helping sustainability, the fact that we're aware of it is hopefully going to get somewhere.
It's a step in the right direction.
It's one step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I do believe that fashion companies in the fashion industry is taking initiatives towards a more sustainable circular future, like with the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, where different companies came together to discuss about how companies and how industry could become more circular, or adapt a more circular business model, or how with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and how Samia was talking about H&M is actually one of the forerunners and contributes a huge deal to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a charity that urges people and urges industries to become more circular and take active initiative and actually think about the actions, reflect, and how it's going to affect not only the consumers. Definitely consumers play a huge role, but also human capital, resources, wildlife, and just be more considerate towards how their actions reflect on all of these things and will affect our future.
Yeah, definitely. But also, like you mentioned H&M, and they are obviously doing things in the right direction as well. But I did read somewhere that this year, in fact, like this year as in the year before, like 2017, they produced like so much waste. I don't remember the numbers, but they produced almost double the amount of waste that they usually produce. Like their overstock was so high. I think
almost
it was
40 billion. I think.
It was in billions, which is crazy. So really these little things about like contributing to a wildlife sanctuary, like does that really count, or is that just like, oh, I'm trying to be so cool? Like, I mean, I don't think it makes a huge difference, to be very honest.
But I think it's good that it's taking some, like it's starting to
that it's
be
creating
more.
awareness.
Yeah, it definitely has to look into its other practices, on its workforce and how it's sourcing its materials. But it's definitely urging and starting that movement that no, we have to make a difference.
Just a quick reminder, you're listening to the Fashion Vanguards AO London podcast. Please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, give us a review, and carry on the protest. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
The cynic in me basically is sort of residing on the fact that I think that the industry is now very very conscious of the fact that actually when we look towards the future, there's going to be this millennial generation that are going to be the workers and the earners, etc., the future leaders, and the future consumers. So there is now a real conscious effort to want to market towards them, and because we are showing through social media and the growth of the internet our awareness of the issue, it's something that we are far more going to desire and want and demand going forward. So
yeah, but like for businesses, sometimes it could be quite difficult to actually make a profit. So
right.
I think you mentioned, Kate, the organic cotton t-shirts. I think they need much less water, but they are quite expensive to manufacture. So yes, they do want to answer what the consumer wants, but is it going to do well for their own business? And do they have to make it a luxury item to give?
Right.
Do sustainable clothes have to be luxury
And
items?
that's something actually we'll be talking about a little bit more further into the series. But no, you've just raised a really good point. And but again, we can all be quite cynical because it is the fashion industry. But what it is doing is it's creating a platform for us to at least talk about it, at least start the discussion and really try to make some sort of change.
And the other question really is, we do talk about sustainability as a very big issue, obviously, but hypothetically, if it were to be completely ignored, would the world really continue this way? Would it have a negative impact? Would it get worse, or would it just remain the same? I mean,
well, I think it already has had a negative impact, so I
definitely.
can't imagine that it's going to suddenly swing back the other way if we didn't do anything at all.
Well, we're not going to get utopia tomorrow, are we?
No, it's not going to be miraculously. It turns out all those chemicals were fine. It's the short. I suppose the problem we've got is that it's the slightly short-termist outlook of the industry, and probably us as consumers as well.
Yeah.
I think, as you say, it's going to the before the world ends, I assume that
which will be next week.
the industry would start to fail and falter and end, because if you're trying to build you know, an ongoing industry on stuff that's going to run out, essentially, you've got to do something.
Yeah.
But I still think the general outlook is quite, well, if it's not broken next month and we can still make a profit, then we'll just carry on.
You know what's also quite interesting is just deciphering at what stage we're currently at with you know, destruction, because I know that there's you know, scientists are sort of divided on the issue. You've got those that are quite skeptical of the real impact of, you know, what's currently going on, what's happening in terms of global warming or climate change, and some who aren't. So I think it's really difficult to sort of decipher exactly at what stage we're at. I mean, I know I was reading a research report which was basically saying, you know, if the Earth was to warm to 3 degrees, then we are literally going to be wiped off the planet. And currently we're at 0.8 to 1.3. So there is sort of government initiatives out there that are at this moment in time trying to ensure that the Earth doesn't warm past 2 degrees centigrade. So, you know, it's almost like, you know, how do we get a real sense of how much damage we're sort of currently in, and how do we reverse it? Because to be completely ignorant of the accelerated process of us killing the planet is creating even more, you know, pollution. It's accelerating the whole process. So
can we reverse it? Is that's I mean, is that even possible, or can we just slow down the process of deterioration, really?
I suppose that's the thing. I mean, there's natural, like, fluctuations with the universe anyway. You know, it was a meteorite that wiped out the dinosaurs. Apparently there's only so much you can do if stuff like that is naturally going to happen again. I would imagine that we've accelerated that process massively.
But then
but there's no way of saying it wouldn't have happened anyway, but then that's no reason to speed it up, is it?
No, I know, but you know, with the CO2 emissions and fashion's, you know, sort of involvement in that, it's quite a big contributor.
Yeah,
so
it's massive. And also it's not, there's only a certain amount of that industry that's actually necessary. It's the unnecessariness of a huge proportion of the industry. A lot of it we don't need in order to survive. So, you know, you're supporting that. It's doing an awful lot of damage for very little reason.
You know what, there's this fact that I'm actually looking at now, which is 400 billion square meters of cloth will be made globally this year, and of that 60 billion square meters will be left on the cutting room floor before any consumer even purchases it. So it's a huge sort of factor, you know, in the whole grand scheme of this topic of sustainability. It's a huge factor. So if we're to ignore just, you know, climate change and pollution and you know, we'll be stupid, basically. We really do need to change. There really needs to be an element, and when I say we, I don't mean we just, you know, obviously us in the room. I mean we as a society, so all the stakeholders, you know, whether it's the government, businesses, consumers, you know, everyone. We all just need to change.
How do you think that would be possible? Like, if we all change, does that have to be through some kind of like law or policy that could like?
It's a slow process. I mean, I guess a lot of different steps, from like the law. Obviously, the government does have a lot of power. They can influence a lot. And so do the stakeholders and the big companies. But also as consumers, we make the demands. We sort of set trends almost. So I guess us as well. It starts with everyone. It's not just one person who's responsible, I'd say.
I think awareness is key, making people aware of what is happening, like giving them all of these hard-hitting facts that no, you're contributing towards this, and this is what you need to do so that our future is improved, that we can save our future. So I think awareness is very important plays a very important role in making customers and making them realize what sustainability is and making them understand how it works and how they can contribute to the whole agenda of being more circular, being more sustainable.
And
really
to
agree
be
with
fair, I think the next generations and everything, slowly it is getting better, because in schools and everything, like I grew up doing everyday just plays about like not cutting down trees, and whereas like my parents obviously didn't do that. It's just things are changing slowly.
Definitely.
So I guess
Yeah, I think also like incentives to the consumer can encourage,
Urge them towards
Yeah.
that direction.
like for example, like the 5p bag rule. Like not only did it cut down the amount of bags used, the company still made a profit, and it made the consumer think about how many bags they were using.
it's like advantages to both. So I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
It's more positive for everyone.
In conclusion, sustainability is something that can't be ignored. Raw materials are finite. The degradation of the environment is factual. It's happening. Things need to change. Are our actions reversible?